I'm not gonna lie, I kind of thought cold ground was a type of coffee. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to it in the description below and it'll give you a pretty good overview of what we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus. In short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror and we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys, something that you guys have left in the comments to one of my previous videos, a horror movie that I've never seen before. Watch it for the first time, going in blind, and then I'll let you know what I thought. Is it syllabus worthy? Is it worthy enough of making it onto the horror movie syllabus? And today, the movie that we're looking at is Cold Ground. Cold Ground was recommended by the One Man Crew, and they recommended it in our werewolves video, in the comments to the werewolves video, and all they said was that it's found footage. That's it. And so I have the fact that it's being put in the werewolf video giving me an idea that it's a werewolf movie and that it's found footage. And that's all I had to go on. I didn't look up any trailers. I didn't look up any reviews, any synopses, anything like that. I went in as blind as I could, going in with just the title and the scant knowledge from the One Man Crew. And that's kind of the fun thing about doing this is I don't really necessarily know what to expect, but I was expecting cold weather and I was expecting werewolves. And well, did I get that stuff? Is that what happened? And was it good? Let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're looking at today is Cold Ground. Cold Ground came out in 2017 and was directed by somebody named Fabien Delage. I'm not familiar with them or their work. I looked him up. I think it's a him, and I didn't recognize anything else. I don't think I've seen anything else that they've done. And this one is a pretty ambitious project for them to take on. If this is, indicative of what they normally do, it's a pretty ambitious project, but we're going to get into that in just a minute. First, if you haven't seen it before, the movie is a found footage movie set in the 1970s about a pair of journalists who are also a couple who are investigating a series of cattle mutilations near the French-Swiss border. And when they get there to make their documentary, they are told that the researchers that were involved are also missing or they've lost contact with them. So they join a party to go climb up the mountain and try to find out what happened and maybe rescue some people, only they are faced with the elements and something else that is even more scary. And we'll stop there so as to not spoil the hijinks that abound in this movie. But this movie is an interesting setup. The initial mystery and concept of this movie is strong. Like right off the bat, not only are you given a mystery to solve, a dilemma that is driving the people who are going to take on this adventure, but you're also given a meta found footage explanation for why they're going to be filming this adventure. They're a pair of journalists who are trying to make a documentary, and that's going to excuse a lot of why they have a camera going on, why they're able to get the shots they're able to get, why they don't stop filming. A lot of the found footage tropes that usually become problems as the movie goes on, they have a built-in explanation there. And it's, again, not an original explanation. We've seen a few of these things where they have like journalists who are trying to make a documentary or document something or discover something or investigate something, and that's the excuse. But it's a good excuse. It's a solid excuse. It allows me to forgive a lot of the filming, not all of it. We'll get to that. But a lot of it. And then they've got a motivation. They're trying to solve this mystery of what's doing this to the cattle, and then of course what happened to the researchers. It's a compelling motivation for the characters, and it's a good excuse for the found footage for why we're seeing it the way we're seeing it. So I like that setup right off the bat. The nice thing about this investigation is that it also gives you multiple theories as to what's going on. Now, like I had a bit of a tip-off about werewolves because of the video that this was recommended in, but it's presenting things like aliens or radiation or people going insane or other monsters, and we'll come back to that point. But it really does, as a fresh viewer, really present a lot of different options of what it might be that's going on. It really is a slow burn mystery that's not going to tip its hand as to what it is causing all these problems. And I like that. I thought that was good. It makes for a really pretty decent found footage setup and a decent found footage story. It's got some tension in there. It's got some mystery in there. There are some of the tropes with the found footage. Of course, there's lip service paid to explaining some of these things, like why they're filming certain things, because like, oh, the lamp on the camera is stuck, and so you have to film in order to get the lamp to work, and so they're filming to use the light. And but that doesn't really always make sense because they also film during the day, and the audio and the video is actually quite good quality for the mid 70s, and they are they say something about how they have like the best equipment, they've got the state of the art equipment, and so there's some explanations as to why they're able to do the things they're going to do, but it doesn't explain everything, and it kind of wears thin. There's the standard found footage trope of somebody filming a conversation amongst people for no reason. They set up a camera to have a conversation, and that's always one that kind of annoys me, but that's in here quite a bit. And so and there's some other issues. We'll get into these in a little bit later, but they are trying to make the found footage make some sense, and for the most part, I think they're doing a decent job of it, enough so that I can stay involved with the mystery and the story as it's going on, in the characters and the scenery. The location of this movie is one of its strongest points. Its locale is both beautiful and foreboding. It's a really excellent setup because you've got this threat of the elements that is very, very predominant throughout the movie. The nature and isolation aspect of this movie is really strong. The first half of this movie is just like this dangerous cold hike, and it's working for me. It's this idea of them being out in the elements, and the elements being so dangerous that they could die, is good. This was the strongest part of the movie to me. Like, there's this aspect of them where they get lost, and that's scarier to me than any creatures that could have been on that mountain. Like, just the idea of them being lost on this mountainside in the dead of winter, freezing, no food, is fantastic. It was really, really disturbing and scary, and they managed to do some things in this movie that I thought worked really, really well. Again, you found footage, right? So you've got some limitations on what you can do, and it's not a high budget movie, but they did do some really cool things. Like they come across some of the animal corpses in the movie, and they look gory, but they're also kind of hard to see, and that was kind of realistic to me for a found footage. It's like you're not going to really be able to make out exactly what you're seeing, and you've got like a biologist there to kind of explain some of it to you, to kind of add to some of the horror of it. But I liked that it wasn't super clean and clear, and I liked that they kind of left that vague and ambiguous for narrative reasons, because that's what it would look like in the snow, in poor light and things like that. So I liked that aspect of it quite a bit. They do an avalanche in this movie that is the standout scene in the movie. It really is fantastic. From a found footage point of view, seeing this avalanche was terrifying. It was really, really good. It was a high watermark for the movie, and I hadn't seen something like that before. Maybe there are other found footage movies I haven't gotten to yet that do something like that with an avalanche, but this was a new one for me, and it was executed extremely well. This whole idea of them being lost and them having an avalanche that damages certain things and stuff like that was a really strong aspect of that. I kind of could have just had the movie just be that, frankly. Like, there's an argument to be made that the runtime's a little bit padded for this movie to be a feature, and sure, okay, but it held my attention in part because this first part, this long trek, this hike, was creepy to me. It was distressing to me, even though they had this banter going on that's kind of lighthearted, like that, and it was fine. The banter was fine. It's a little exposition-y, but it made sense in context of the story of why they're explaining these things to these journalists, to kind of get them up to speed on what's going on, and kind of sharing knowledge and stuff like that. So we, the audience, are getting fed information, but the characters are also getting fed information, and it made sense. I was cool with that. And so I didn't feel like it felt too padded, but I have some thoughts on people making that kind of argument because, if you're looking to get to the creatures, you're not going to get to them for quite a while. And I was okay with that because I liked what was going on almost better, frankly, with the whole cold and the nature, foreboding nature thing, the freezing to death thing. Great stuff. I really like that. The issue that I have with this movie, and it's a big one for me, is a technology issue. It's a period piece, right? It's set in the mid 70s, and so it should have mid 70s technology. And mind you, I don't know why it's set in the mid 70s. There's not really a terribly good narrative reason to do that. I mean, maybe you don't want them to have cell phones and stuff like that, but you frankly could explain that with the weather alone being a problem for perception. But like they are in the 70s and they have 70s equipment. And it's filmed in 2017. We know they're not really using real 70s equipment. Had they done that, this could have been excellent, but they weren't because it's technologically infeasible for them to do this. What they did is they filmed it digitally and they put like digital filters on it to like age the video, make it look a little bit more 70s and grainier, and with like fake scratches and stuff like that. The stuff you can do like on Shotcut or Final Cut or anything like that. And it was obvious. And you've got an image quality that is too good. It is it's got image stabilization. It's clean and it's got like digital effects on it. It's able to shoot really well in low light, and the audio is perfect. And they even make a comment again, like, "Oh, we've got the best camera with like a built-in microphone or whatever." But this is 1975 or whatever it is. No way. They're not using any other mics, and the audio is perfect. Perfect whether you're 5 feet from the camera or 15 feet from the camera. No way at all. We can't do that now. Like there's no way. And so this was a big hurdle for me to get over. And they tried with explaining what the state of their equipment and explaining why they've got the light on and the light's stuck on the camera and everything like that. But all I could think about is like, that camera should be heavy as hell. Like, it's the 1970s. I remember video cameras in the 1970s. Mind you, I'm not even 100% sure that they're filming on video, but they have to be, because they couldn't be filming on film because they'd be carrying so much film. But they also have this video camera that's presumably way smaller. The way they run with it and carry it, way smaller than what they would have been in the 1970s. I feel like the person who was making this wasn't alive in the 1970s, because no way. And the camera's exposed to the elements. It gets dropped. It's very hard for me to get past this. And again, I don't know why they said in the 70s. You just said in modern times using modern equipment. Bob's your uncle, right? It's no problem. But they felt compelled to make it a 1970s movie, and it doesn't lend itself to anything in there at all. Like, not even fashions or something, because everybody's so bundled up and everything that you can't really tell what the fashions are. So this was a big misstep for me. And I kind of hate myself for this too, because lately I feel like I've been nitpicking found footage movies for this issue of not being very believable as to why they're filming or how they're filming. And I know why, because it's a found footage movie. They're cheap to make, and that's what people want to do. But this one did a really good job overall of explaining the found footage stuff. Again, notwithstanding filming some random conversations for no good reason. For the most part, it was doing a pretty decent job of explaining why they're filming and how they're filming. But I just think that I couldn't get past the technology issue. I just really couldn't get past it. I was sitting there looking things up, trying to find out, when did video become available, like camcorders? Were they available in the 1970s? The answer is yes, but they really weren't common, and they wouldn't have been small, and they wouldn't have been very good quality. So it's just, you really, really have to suspend your disbelief for that one. And that was a challenge. And it's like, it's getting in the way of the mystery of what they're trying to find out is doing to the cattle, and what happened to the researchers. It's getting in the way of some of the dread that's being built up with with the elements and being lost out on the mountainside. That's a problem. That's a problem for me. But was it such a problem that it doesn't make it onto the syllabus? Well, let's find out. So, is Cold Ground syllabus worthy? No. No, it's not going to push its way onto the list, onto the syllabus. It's just not enough. There's not enough there for it to do that, especially not as a werewolf movie. There's too many classic werewolf movies for it to come in there. And not for nothing, this is being presented to me as a werewolf movie. I might quibble with that a little bit. It's definitely not your standard traditional werewolf movie. It's a little bit nebulous as to what it is we're dealing with here, what kind of monsters we're dealing with here. It is monsters, but it's not necessarily werewolves. And, we can debate. I don't want to get into too much and spoil it too much, but we can have a debate about that. But it's probably better in like a nature and isolation subgenre, because that's where the strength was for me. It really is a good setup and a good, cold weather elements fighting kind of thing that worked really well for me. The avalanche, the being lost, the locale, all of that worked really, really well for me. The acting was decent enough. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was perfectly serviceable. The camera work was serviceable. I believe that was a journalist filming. It was fine. It wasn't anything super artistic about it, but it also wasn't bad. It wasn't too shaky. Again, image stabilization. And that's the thing. It's like I kind of kept harping on these technical implausibilities. I was distracted by them, but I didn't really want them to be 70s accurate, right? I didn't want it to be super low grain, hard to see, dark video that's super shaky with audio and I can't hear anything. And I didn't want that experience. That's a terrible experience to watch. So I can understand why they don't do that, why they don't use actual 70s equipment, because it would be hard to watch. I quibble with them putting it in the 70s. Didn't need to do that. There's no reason for it, narratively or artistically. There was no reason to do that. And it's got a good setup. It's got a good mystery. It's got a good reasoning for found footage and everything like that. The resolution of it is, I don't know, kind of mid, as the kids would say. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, if I'm watching this movie and I can't stop thinking about that camera and why it's still working and why he's able to carry it and how much film he should have left if it's on film, or why is he filming in the daytime, and all this stuff, then that's a problem. That's an issue for the movie, because that means that what's good about it is not overcoming this major technological flaw that's just eating away at me. And I admit, it may just be me. I feel like I've been really nitpicky on this lately, but I couldn't get past it. So because of that, while it has a really strong nature and isolation aspect to it, again, reminds me a little bit of like The Descent. You know what I mean? Where there's monsters in The Descent, but what really scared me in The Descent was being in the caves and that feeling of claustrophobia and being trapped or lost in there. That really freaked me out. That's the same kind of feel I have here too. It's like the monsters are good in this movie. They're really good. And when they attack at the end, it's cool, but they take a long time to get there. And I didn't mind, because what I had going on before that was solid stuff. I really wanted to give this one a pass. But I mean, I started looking things up during the movie to check facts on 70s camera equipment. That's not good. So that's the hindrance for me. So that's where Cold Ground falls short for me. But those are my thoughts on Cold Ground, and I'm wondering if any of you have seen this, and did you have the same issue I had with it, or could you get behind it a little bit more? Were you a little bit more engaged by it? Because I have a feeling that there are a lot of people who might be able to push past these things I was nitpicking about and just enjoy the movie for what it is. And I hope that's the case, because I do think it is a good movie. I'm not mad I watched it. I had a good time with watching it. Like I said, I wish I could give it a better ruling, but those technological issues just really I couldn't get past them, man. Maybe it's just me. So now let's see if I can get past this horror Trivia Pursuit card, because it's about that time where I read a question live on camera and hopefully don't embarrass myself. So let's go with the international category, because this is a French production, or it's partly in French. Like the main characters speak French subtitles, but they also speak English. So most of the movie's in English, but anyways, international, right? So let's just go with the question here. Here's the question. In what type of accident did Christiane damage her face in 1960's Eyes Without a Face? Now, it's been a minute since I've seen that movie. It's been in like 30 years since I've seen that movie, at least. Like, yeah, it's been about 30 years, maybe a little bit more. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember it super well. I remember the imagery more than anything. And so this is a hazy one for me, and I'm struggling right off the bat. And it's like, it's a type of accident. So that does narrow it down a bit. And I have an idea in my head that I'm not 100% confident, maybe like 80% confident in. It's one of these ones where like I'm worried that I'm mixing things up with other movies. And like I saw this in college. I saw a lot of these older classic movies when I was in college, and some of them I've revisited, some of them I haven't. This is one that I kind of meant to go back and revisit multiple times, just never gone around to it, always preoccupied with something else. But this is one that, it's a classic. And Maybe we'll even talk about it on the syllabus one day. But right now, I've got my theory. I've got my answer that I'm going to go with, even though I'm not 100% sure on it. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And so, go ahead and lock in your answer. I've prattled on long enough. Go ahead and lock your answer. Let me answer mine. So, my answer is, what type of accident is a car accident? I'm pretty sure, reasonably sure, that it's a car accident. But let's just go check the card. Car accident. Car accident. Okay, so I pulled that one out. And I'll be honest, I don't feel super great about it because I just didn't have that confidence behind it. And it really kind of just illustrated me like immediately, like, man, sometimes I just don't retain plots super well for movies that I haven't revisited. If I've seen it more than once, it's much easier. But if I've only seen it once, it can get a little hazy, especially if it's been decades. So got that one right by the skin of my teeth, I feel like. Did you get it right? And if not, what did you answer? Was it a different, like, did you have anything funny? Give me funny answers in the comments below. Also, give me more recommendations in the comments below. Cold Ground was a lot of fun, even though I had some serious issues with the tech aspect of it. Definitely worth your time. Tell me what else is worth my time. It doesn't have to be werewolves, doesn't have to be anything about cold weather. Just give me recommendations because you guys generally have been killing it. That's going to do it for this week. Until next week, class dismissed.